What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We have some breaking news, a partial verdict in the Diddy trial. This is developing, so hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss a beat. All right, let's get straight to it. The jury in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial has just delivered a partial verdict, and while we don't know the full details yet, what we do know is a game changer. They've come back with unanimous verdicts on 4 of the 5 counts Diddy is facing. But here's the twist. They are still hung up on the racketeering charge. They told the judge they have jurors with unpersuadable opinions on both sides, meaning they're truly deadlocked on that one. Now, those 4 counts they did reach a verdict on, we're talking sex trafficking as it relates to Cassie, sex trafficking as it relates to Jane, and the Mann Act charges for both Cassie and Jane. Judge Arun Subramanian, he saw the situation and he sent them right back to keep deliberating on that racketeering charge. They wrapped up for the day, but they're set to return first thing tomorrow morning. What this means for Diddy. Honestly, even though we don't have the outcome of those 4 verdicts yet, the fact that they came back so quickly on them tells me something. When it comes to the Mann Act, that's about transporting someone across state lines for commercial sex purposes. From where I'm sitting, and this is just my take, the prosecution laid out a pretty clear path there. If they found him guilty on those, Diddy is definitely in deep waters. Then you got the sex trafficking charges. For that, the prosecution has to prove fraud, force, or coercion. And this is where Cassie's testimony became super critical. Remember that moment when the jury specifically asked for transcripts about the alleged incident on the plane after Cannes? The story about Diddy showing Cassie that freak-off video and threatening to release it if she didn't comply? If the jury believed that was an act of coercion, which I think is a strong possibility, then that's a huge hurdle for Diddy. With Jane, it felt like there was more of a gray area around consent, and the jury didn't even ask for her transcripts, which is an interesting signal. So my personal feeling is he's in serious trouble on the Mann Act and likely with Cassie's sex trafficking charge too. Either way, we're talking about significant prison time if he's convicted. Now, let's talk about this racketeering charge. I've been saying from the jump, many people felt like it's a stretch to apply it here. Racketeering is usually for organized crime, for criminal enterprises. While the prosecution tried to paint Diddy's operation as exactly that, the jury being split on it, saying they're dug in on both sides, tells me some jurors just aren't seeing it as a RICO case. It's almost like they've got the evidence for the individual acts, but they're struggling to fit it into that broader enterprise box. Here's the kicker. We're staring down a 4-day holiday weekend with the courts closed on Thursday for the 4th of July. Juries have a funny way of finding common ground when a holiday is on the horizon. Nobody wants to come back to this after a holiday. So either they push hard and reach a full verdict, or, and this is a strong possibility, they come back, say they're hopelessly deadlocked on racketeering, and the judge will likely accept the 4 unanimous verdicts and declare a mistrial on the racketeering count. If that happens and he's found guilty on those other charges, I highly doubt they'd retry him just for racketeering. Now, in the U.S. justice system, if a jury reaches a unanimous verdict on some counts, but is hung on others, the judge can accept the verdicts on the counts they agreed on and declare a mistrial on the hung counts. Here's the breakdown of what that means. If Diddy is found guilty on the 4 counts where the jury reached unanimous verdicts, like the Mann Act and sex trafficking charges, he can absolutely be sentenced and potentially go to prison for those convictions, even if there's a mistrial on the racketeering charge. The convictions on those 4 counts stands independently. For the charge where the jury is hung, racketeering in this scenario, a mistrial means that the court couldn't reach a decision on that specific charge. It's neither guilty nor not guilty. After a mistrial due to a hung jury, the prosecution has a few options regarding that specific charge. They can decide to retry Diddy on the racketeering charge with a new jury. This is often the most common outcome, especially for serious charges. Another option is they might try to negotiate a plea deal with Diddy regarding that specific charge, perhaps for a lesser offense to avoid the expense and uncertainty of another trial. And finally, less common, but they could decide to drop the charge entirely, especially if the jury was heavily leaning towards acquittal, or if they feel the evidence isn't strong enough to secure a conviction in a retrial. A mistrial on one count does not nulligate convictions on other counts. If Diddy is found guilty on the 4 charges, those convictions are valid and he could face prison time based on them. The racketeering charge would remain unresolved, subject to the prosecution's decision to retry, offer a plea, or dismiss. When court ended, knowing those 4 verdicts were in, Diddy was seen whispering to his family, "I'll be okay." You can read into that how you want to, but for me, it sounded like a man mentally preparing for what's next, trying to reassure his loved ones that he'll survive no matter what the verdict brings. So while we await the official announcement, my gut tells me this is not good news for Diddy. I'm leaning towards convictions on those Mann Act and at least 1 sex trafficking charge and a hung jury on racketeering. What do you think is going to happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Y'all know how we do. Thanks for watching, and before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next update. I'll catch you in the next one.